Office hours for September 18th, 2025. This is Arvind Machadran. Okay, so what are we doing office hours for, right? That's something that we need to consider closely and why you're watching this video. To me, I started learning the process of psychoanalysis somewhere around 2011 or something like that, 2010. And when I first started, I had all of these ideas that I should be using psychoanalysis to forecast what's going to happen, to forecast when, um, when highs will likely form, and when lows are going to form, and um, to really use it as this sort of be all end all indicator, or this be all end all way to analyze the market. What I have found over now, 14, 15 years of doing this is that number one, you have to be a lot more flexible around being able to adjust the cycle brackets. Because what are cycle brackets? They are an indication or a way for us to see money flow patterns. Money flow patterns shift. So, what I have learned and what I mentioned in office hours is that I use cycle brackets to help to understand the duration of moves, either on the upside or on the downside. And I use cycle brackets in connection with the slim ribbon specifically to help to understand strength of moves up or strength of moves down. And then I overlay the RS on the weekly as well with the RS on the daily to understand phasing, right? Cycles go through a phase where they will form lows. They get into the early stages of a rising phase. They get into a peaking phase. Then they get into their corrective phase. Understanding where we are in the phase, the RS on the weekly and even on the daily is actually quite helpful, for that tool. So that's what I've learned. And what I think is really important is to understand that in this period, psychoanalysis has very much worked. There is no doubt that psychoanalysis has worked if you are using it the way that I am talking about it. And part of the reason that even though I'm doing, all of this work with the chart updates, all of the videos I do, all of which take up a lot of really valuable time in the trading session, I do the trade ideas specifically on the site, which are fewer than the actual number that I'm posting in our trade ideas feed. I do those to show you how this overall process works over time. And what I like about what we do is we are very transparent with how things are going, right? And what I'm going to show you here is I'm going to show you our trade ideas feed. Okay. And keep in mind, this is available for level 3 and 4 members. So let's go ahead and just pop right over into that. Okay. So this is the trade ideas feed. And on the top right hand corner, you can see our overall bias accuracy that says the number of trade ideas that got into our target zone prior to hitting our stop. And over the very large sample size now over many, many years, it's at 74%. And our trade idea accuracy, which is when it gets into the zones that I show, and then goes into our target. And that's over also a large sample size at over 60%. What I want to show you is this little button here in the top right hand corner. You can see in, again, different periods how the overall strategy has performed. So let's go back to January from the start of the year. How have we done? Overall bias accuracy 77%, idea accuracy 70, right around 70%. Okay, let's go to now February, then to April. Since April, 82% bias accuracy, 19 out of 25, or 76% idea accuracy. Now, please note, there have been many more ideas that I have done beyond just these ideas. Those are all in the Trade Ideas feed on Discord. This is just the ones that I posted to the site. Each of these take a lot of time to do because I do a video with every one of these. But this gives you a sense, right? 76%. How about since May? 81%. How about since June? 93%. How about since July? 100%. Okay. Am I going to be hitting this forever? Of course not. There will be losers along the way. But this is to show you that this process works. Is it going to work all the time? No. That's why we have a larger sample size there. But I can tell you over the past, let's say 3 years or so, things have been very, very solid. Let's just, leave it at that. There is no doubt that this process works. Okay. It's all about just whether or not you are using this process, all of our inputs properly in your trading. Okay, very, very important because I do not want anyone to think that this process does not work. It's extremely consistent. I don't know why people would think it doesn't work or why this has been a harder period. It has not. If you are using it with those same core ideas that I have been highlighting, use cycle analysis to understand duration, tie in the overall condition of the 813 and 21 EMAs on the daily with the RS weekly and RS daily to understand cycle phasing, right? If you can do all of that, you can be very successful. Is it going to happen right away for you? No, it'll take some time. But guess what? Anything that we do that is worthwhile will take time. Are there going to be areas and time periods when things are a little bit more challenging? Yes, but that's how you have to continue to grow and learn and find ways to, have trades that may at one point have been a loser be a scratch. I've been showing you that of late, right? A lot of things that I had been trying, years ago would have been losers, but they were all scratches. So even if I go out of, let's say, um, 10 trades, I only have 2 winners and I have 8 scratches. It's a lot obviously better than having, 2 winners and 8 losers. Those aren't losers because I am managing them very, very tightly because I am, as I said in Future Speak, watching my running average win average loss very closely. And I am very aware about what kind of equity curve I want to have. I want to have it work its way higher and have shallow draws, work its way higher and have shallow draws. That's the goal. How do I do that? I do that by watching my average win, average loss very closely. And if I see, less traction on my trades, right? Overall, right? Even if I have, larger winners here and there, like in, MU of late, like in BX, right? Good size winners, right? And then obviously INDA, another one that was also solid. I had other names like DLL, like Coin didn't do anything, like NASDAQ, a bunch of names that just became scratches. I'm okay with that. But I can tell you years ago, I would have really struggled if I was, having that many in a row that weren't moving the way I thought. But use that piece of data as information, right? Why am I doing why am I doing office hours? Why did I even start doing it? Because I really believe that for you guys um, really grow, it's going to be based on all of these core topics that I highlight specifically in office hours, understanding where core moves came from, right? What happened in terms of the overall patterns? Where were the actual triggers? Why? And then just honing that and adding that into your process, right? Understanding that everything that has happened, even off of this April low has been very coordinated, very consistent. If you are really listening to the market and really using relative strength as as an edge for your trading, relative strength can really do that for you. It's really a super solid tool in your arsenal to track to see where is that core, you know, um, where are those core money flows moving? How are they shifting? Where are those key setups? How do I get involved, right? And actually building out your entry tactics. All of that stuff is key sets of information that I'm sharing with you here specifically in office hours. But in the end, you're going to have to build that for yourself. And that's what's great about this is that once you do it for yourself, it's, it's really yours. You own that. You own that process from end to end. You are not worried about what anyone else thinks. It's yours. And that's where you can have real growth because then you can keep on improving, right? Iterating on your process, which is what's going to continue to happen. I'm now 15 years in. There has not been a year where I have not seen improvement in some aspect of my process. And the same should be for you. As I've said, every day, every week, every month, every quarter, every year, right? Find areas that you want to, you want to improve upon, create an action plan for yourself on how you're going to make improvements and go out and do it, right? And I think if you do that, you will see huge long-term gains on your own level personally. And that's what I want. That's why I spend all this time on office hours doing these and doing these videos, is because that's what I want for everyone who's watching this. Right. So with that, let's go ahead and hop right into the charts. So this is Lowe, and I have been doing this to show you the corrective phases, and just keep that going. There's that low here. Let's do 1027 around 1229. Where is the 78.6? That's always the first question I ask, and we are basically right at it. So let's be aware of that. We're right at the 78.6. Short term, nice little move up. Again, if this were me, right here is the overall day to be involved off of that low, clear base. You can just see it with your eyes. That's your base right there. Here's your first day to be involved. And again, it would be versus that low. So you're looking at a risk from 232 down to about 221. Let's call it right around $10. First area would be right around the 200 is where I'd be watching. So that's right around, let's just call it 9 or so on the upside. And from here, I would draw my fibs in from cycle low, cycle high, and then to the actual low. I do it versus the actual low. So you can see there was a 127.2 right where the 200 was, and then there's a 161 at around 247. So 247 would have been that next area up. And, it has just continued to hold up really fairly strongly. This is another interesting setup here that I want to highlight. So this was an earnings gap, right? And yeah, not a huge move up, but it did have a little gap up towards that 265 area. You will note that 269 was the 78.6. Then it just had a super tight consolidation. When we see price get fairly tight, you then want to watch for a day like that where you move through that high, move through that high. So if you wanted to, this would be a valid opportunity, but right here to play that flag. Where would you be wrong? Well, if you're buying above here at 259, you could be, I would say, very tight and keep it versus 255.70, or you can keep it versus the 21 SMA. I'm sorry, 21 EMA. Which is just a bit lower. Let's say around 544. That's usually what I would do, right? I am playing this as a trend. What usually happens in a trend like this, which is holding, which has, again, air from the 8 and 13 and 13 and 21, I would keep it versus the 21 and play for a move back to highs. So what do we say? We said that risk is right around $6, targeting a move of about 8. So again, that's a valid opportunity. You are trading with the trend. You have a clear and logical stop, and this is where I would be setting my first target. Okay, and again, what's happening on the intermediate term? The RS was firm up during that period. Okay, so you're still in the rising phase. I'm sharing these opportunities because in my eyes, these are really quite clear. Okay, 10.3 to around 10.14, and what are we looking at here? Still in the rising mode, starting to get a little bit more choppy, but holding up. Do I see any obvious opportunities now? Not really, but these were two really, really nice ones, I think, on the way. And again, why am I sharing these with you? It is due to the fact that we will see these same patterns again and again. They will be slightly different, but the same general idea, and you can add this into your arsenal as you really, build out your own sets of trading plans for each of these setups. Put, again, several charts into your archive for each of them, which are really A-plus setups, and that will help you to hone your pattern recognition skills as it links to identifying these setups.